Good morning, everybody. Here we are as we continue Kuntres Bikkur Chicago, touching a city soul. Amazing sefer. Yesterday I had the great schus of being by the aisle, and I had such pride to tell the Friedrich Rebbe that we're learning his sefer and how much we're enjoying it. So I had every one of you guys in mind while we were there. And yeah, it should bring us a lot of brachas and continued success in learning this incredible maamer. Okay. We finished Oiz base yesterday. And I feel like, and I was having a discussion with my husband about it yesterday, because all of my maarim that I teach for Living Chassidus, I learn with him as well. So I feel like the purpose of Oiz base really gets more deeply understood once you learn Oiz Gimel. So I feel like a lot of the questions are questions that stand in of themselves, but I feel like what we're going to learn today is going to give a lot more context to what we're trying to say as a whole through the maamer. So just a small reminder, the structure kind of goes like this. We begin with a pasuk. It gets us kind of curious. It leads us to a lot of questions. We begin to explain those questions. The Friedrich Rebbe is a lot more in depth. No, I'm not saying that the Rebbe is not. I'm just saying that the Friedrich Rebbe seems to like really jump into a topic very deeply, discusses it more in depth. So, for example, this whole concept of ashes and wood, and the four elements, and so we go into that topic. Then we come out and we understand. Oh, what is this topic about? Why is this even related here? Because we're trying to say the incredible powers of Moshe Rabbeinu's soul, that it really goes straight through the entire Seder Stalshus, which I actually made a diagram for everybody for today. Goes straight through the entire Seder Stalshus without having any sort of ramifications that diminish its power, so to speak, as opposed to the difference between Avram's holy, incredible neshama and the essence of Chesed in its source in Atzilus. So once you understand that, you understand the mashal of it. It's just as insignificant, so to speak, or not insignificant, chas v'shalom, it's not a good word, but like the difference, the disparity between ashes and actual piece of wood is so great. As I said yesterday, you could give someone a plaque of wood. That's a beautiful gift. If you give someone a little container with ashes of the plaque, what the plaque used to be, it's not exactly the same. So again, we're talking about very different types of things, ashes versus wood, but essentially it's the same thing. And so we're saying that the source of Avram's soul is the wood, and what came down, or what was left after this whole process of what came down, was the ashes. So I want to give an explanation with a diagram. So if everyone wants to turn over and actually look at the camera for a second. Again, I'm going to explain, and I'm going to give a ginormous disclaimer. This is a physical illustration of something that is not physical whatsoever. So this is just to give us a bit of understanding about Seder Stalshus, about the world and how this whole concept works. Because I know that we're talking about the essence of Atzilus and going through Bria and Yitzir and all these things. And if we don't bring it down to something that we can grasp in our minds, it's going to be very hard to continue and really feel connected to the maamer. So this is not actually what it looks like whatsoever, but this is just one way of looking at the entire picture, okay? So here we have, I hope you guys can see. So over here on the top is Atzmus, is the essence of Hashem. This is the aspect of infinite God. So before Seder Stalshus, this is all that was, the entire paper. So imagine, turn around. This is before creation. The entire paper is called Atzmus. The entire paper is God's essence. There was nothing else but Hashem in the entire world. It wasn't like there was Hashem and something else, and so therefore that's how the world was created. We took two things and we made them. Nope. The entire piece of paper was Hashem. Okay, that was Atzmus. Then Hashem had a desire. He had a desire to connect and to have a relationship with something that would want to connect with him, so to speak. And again, I'm giving very big generalizations. This is not in-depth Chassidus. I'm just trying to give generalizations so we can understand the maamer a little bit better, right? So Hashem made in this Hashemness, that the entire thing was Hashem, Hashem decided to open up an empty space. So as I said, the example I gave yesterday was you have an enormous amount of Play-Doh, and in the Play-Doh, you dig in a hole. You dig, right? Anybody who's ever played with Play-Doh, I hope everyone says yes, because hello. You dig a hole in the middle, and in that middle, then you're able to reintroduce separate things. So Hashem made a separate hole, so to speak, called a makom panoi, an empty space. And in that empty space, he began by introducing this incredible, we talk about it just like we say the word, but the concept of Keser is just like above and beyond amazing, because Keser is the first non-existent existence. And I think we spoke about this 2 maamerim ago when we learned, so you can go back and learn the maamer that we learned, Loisiyim Shakela. But anyway, so Keser is that in between from Atzmos, which is infinite, into the beginnings of finite worlds. Then we have Atzilus, right? And the 10, okay, whatever, just ignore those lines for now. But we have in Atzilus then goes through Chachma of Atzilus, Bin of Atzilus, Das of Atzilus, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. That's what these little things are meant to, they don't look so pretty. So we're just going to ignore them for now. But each one of them is in here, and the whole world goes through a level of contraction of Atzilus. Then in Atzilus, there's Keser. Malchus connects to Keser, so to speak. And then we continue on again through Bria and, Chachma of Bria, Bina of Bria, Das of Bria, and all of these things. We have all 10 spheres. And then we have Yetzira. So we have all 10 spheres of Yetzira. And then we have Asiya. And Asiya, by the time Asiya finishes, we have physicality. So I called it our world. So does it really look like this? No, not at all. This right now, there is no, there's no concept of space, what's higher and what's lower. Literally, Asiya and Atzilus, it's in the same room as I am, because they're not physical entities, okay? So this is just for us to visualize what's happening. So now, take the source, and we're going to discuss this a bit better in today's class, but take the source of Hashem's, take this back. Take the source of Avram's neshama, right, which comes from the chesed of Atzilus. It's all the way through here. And it goes through chesed, gevura, tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, malchus of Atzilus. Then it has to go through all 10 spheres of Bria. Then it has to go through all 10 spheres of Yetzira. And then it has to go through all 10 spheres of Asiya. By the time it comes here, what used to look like, and again, this is just a mushal, it's just a comparison. Let's say over here, this looked like wood. By the time it reaches here, it looks like ashes. And that's what we're trying to say. The process through which Avram's neshama went from the source essence of Chesed of Atzilus all the way down to be enclosed in his body. This is wood. And through this process, that wood, by the end, kind of looks like ashes. That's what he says in the pasuk. It says, I am ashes. I'm dust and ashes. Okay? So we're not saying that there's anything wrong with Avram. I'm going to say it for a millionth time. We're not putting down Avram. Avram's incredible. And how much more so we can appreciate if his soul was a soul of a chesed of Atzilus, and it went through that whole process, the rest of our other people's souls, primarily most of other people's souls, come from Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. So those souls also went through that process. And so how great is it that, through this process, Avram was still considered, a chariot. He was still a merkava for the Eibishter. So his neshama went through that process. Meanwhile, Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama also went through that process. Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama is sourced in Atzilus. I hope you can hear me. There's loud outside my window. Okay. Also is sourced in Atzilus, but as it goes through, somehow, miraculously, Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama is not affected whatsoever by this process. It's as if it gets put through the ringer, but it comes out exactly pristine, exactly as it was. And we're going to understand what it means that a neshama comes from Atzilus versus a neshama that comes from all the other worlds. Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss today. Today we're going to discuss the source of the neshama and what that means and what it means for a person. Okay, long introduction, but I hope it helps and I hope it makes a little bit more sense about what we're talking about. You're able to relate to it. Okay, So today we're starting on page 57. Check the time. Beautiful. Starting on page 57, and we are on Eis Gimel. So we're going to compare a neshama that comes from Atzilus in comparison to a neshama that comes from the other worlds, and then we're going to explain how that affects our sensitivity to godliness, right? Okay, let's get into it. However, Moshe, meaning we finished off with the last sentence in the last thing was, therefore Avram is read with a pause and cantillation, since the soul of Avram above in Atzilus is not comparable to the soul of Avram in the lower worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya. Okay, so we said that's why Avram has a comma in between, or a cantillation comma in between. However, Moshe is read without a pause in the cantillation, since Moshe in Atzilus and Moshe in the lower worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya were identical without a break between them. Moshe received the Torah at Har Sinai and taught it to all the Jewish people, and he drew down the inner flow of spiritual life force to the souls of the Jewish people. It is for this reason that Moshe is written without a pause in the cantillation, right? So we're saying that it went straight. His neshama goes straight, and so therefore he's also able to bring that hashpah, that knowledge, giving us the Torah straight and direct. It won't get affected by the process. Up until this point, the Rebbe Ayat explains that Moshe is written without a pause in the cantillation because there is no change between his soul above in its root and its manifestation below in the lower worlds. Now, the Rebbe Ayat adds a further point, that as a result of this lack of change, Moshe was able to impart this quality in the Jewish people as well. So being that his neshama didn't have a change, so he's able to transmit and give us that directly to us as well. It is written, behold, I will sow the house of Israel with the seed of man, Zera Adam, and the seed of animal, Zera Behema. Okay, so one second. We're about to start a new concept. We're going to compare this whole concept of Zera Adam, the seed of man, versus Zera Behema. We're going to delve deeply into it. We're going to understand it. By the time we finish, we'll stick our heads back out of it and say, okay, now we're trying to see how this continues on with the flow. Okay, so let's get ready for we're going to delve deeply into a new topic. The difference between humans and animals is that a man has das, introspective consciousness, and an animal does not have das. Okay, so we need to give quite an introduction on das. So one of the many things we do as Lubavitcher sometimes, as we say, Chachma bin das, what do you mean it's Chabad? And then we continue on and we, go forwards without actually thinking, what is the difference between Chachma, Bina versus Das, okay? So for anyone who has not yet learned this, there is an incredible book. I wish they actually published it. I don't know where to find it, but as soon as I have some sort of way of finding it for you guys, it's just amazing. So I wish we could learn it together. But it's called Shar Yichud of the Mitzler Rebbe. And this sefer, obviously the actual Shar Yichud is obviously published, but I have the great zchus of having a translation by an incredible Baki in Chassidus, an incredible genius in Chassidus. His name is Binyamin Walters, and he translates it with a lot of commentary and a lot of depth. Not commentary like explaining who else talks about this, but commentary just really explaining what the concepts actually mean. So one of the most amazing mashalim that he gives in this sefer is the difference between Chachma, Bina, and Das. So for example, take a moment, put your book down, and let me describe to you. There is this animal. It is generally like a yellowish orange. It has black or brown stripes on the animal, on the fur of the animal. It has very, very, very sharp teeth. It also has whiskers and 2 eyes and a nose. Okay, so you might have a general idea of what I'm talking about. You might have a visual photo somewhere in your mind of what you think I'm talking about. Now, imagine if I come on here, and I should have actually done this, but I didn't. I come on here and I take a picture of a tiger and I show it to you. And I pick up a picture of a tiger. So now you have a lot better understanding what this is, what is this thing I'm describing. It's a tiger. It has sharp teeth. Did I not say that? I did say that. But once you see a photo of the sharp teeth, they mean something else to you, right? So that is the difference. Chachma is this concept that you're kind of walking around in a dark room with a flashlight, and you're kind of just shining little pieces at a time, and you're trying to piece together this whole puzzle. Okay, so sometimes you get an idea, I wish I could make this program for Living Chassidus. It would be such an incredible thing if the outcome would be like this, but you don't really know how it's going to work out. You don't really know who's going to join. You don't really know, all the different pieces, how they're going to fall in together. Then you sit down, you have a discussion, you say, oh, this is how it should fall in together. So that's Bina. Bina is seeing a photo and actually piecing together what this would actually do and how it would actually work. Now, yes, I'm about to get to the Das. So now Das, let's see how this works with Das in a tiger, okay? So now imagine if I say, okay, class, we're going on a field trip. I am taking all of you to the zoo. And not just the regular zoo, we're taking you to a petting zoo, wild animal petting zoo. Or let's say I take you to, South Africa, and we go on a safari. And suddenly we're in our car, in our Jeep, in our safari, and we see a physical, real-life tiger, and it's coming towards us. And those sharp teeth that I described to you originally, just in voice, and the sharp teeth that you saw in a photo does not in any way compare to what you feel, the relationship you have, the physical. Some people, their heart would begin to pound even harder, their breathing would change. Some people would begin to sweat from, this is real. It suddenly got very, very real, and you're able to relate to it. So for the rest of your life, you have your children come to you and you say, one time when I was in a safari in South Africa, I saw an actual tiger. That type of relationship to something, that is called Das. Another example of it is, my husband was teaching this young boy how to play sports. His family wanted him to learn how to play, get more active. He needed to work on that. And so they asked my husband, hey, on Sundays, do you mind just taking him out and teaching him how to play different things? So my husband was, Baruch Hashem, very nice, and he took him out, and they were playing at a park. And on the way home, the boy wanted to carry the bat, and it was a metal bat. So he kept, as we were walking, he kept, banging it on the floor, and it's a metal bat, so it makes a very interesting sound. So he heard the ding and the dang and he kept touching different things. And my husband and I were a little bit weary because it's a metal bat, and I think he must have been 8, maybe 7. Yeah, what does he know how to use a metal bat? And suddenly, before we could even stop him, he walks over to one of the glass, storefronts, and he literally bangs the glass with a metal bat. And we got so scared. Baruch Hashem, it did not break. Baruch Hashem, it did not break, because that would have been an insane amount of whatever. But he heard the noise, and we definitely heard us say, don't do that. Oh my goodness. And the owner would happen to be standing near the glass, and he gave him quite a stern look. And at the end, we this is before we had our own kids. So we sat, we bent down to his level and said, do you understand what just happened? Do you realize you just banged a glass with a metal bat? And he goes, yes, I get it. And we said, but do you get it? Do you understand what it means? What could have happened if it would have broken? He goes, yeah, it would have broken, and then I would be in a lot of trouble. And he said it with such calm, and he said it with just such this is what would have happened. And then, do you get how much? It's a lot of money that would have to pay in order to fix this glass. Yeah, it's a lot of money. I probably would get in a lot of trouble, and my mommy and my tati would be really upset. And he just said it with this cool, calm, collected. He didn't have das. He didn't have that real connection to, oh my gosh, this is glass that you're about to break, chas v'shalom, right? So we have a certain sense of das. That's why it says that children are a part of raising children is to give them an appreciation for das. A lot of bitachon. Yes, I'm not sure that's exactly what we were. I don't think that's exactly what he was going for. He was just lack of das. He did not realize, because now we know him and he's much older, and I'm sure now he would have also a lot of bitachon, but a new appreciation for this glass. So again, we're talking about a human being versus an animal, going back into the maamer, okay? A human being is able to have this sense of das, is able to realize this is what's actually happening. I could show an animal, I could show him this book, he could look at it as if he's reading it. He could even if, let's say, we manage to somehow teach, let's say a monkey or something to read, that sense of cognitive, connection, that bond doesn't happen. We as human beings have this incredible aspect that we're able to connect, we're able to bond, we're able to have a real, true relationship. Okay, that's a very good question. Does das come from actually experiencing the situation? Yes and no. Yes, that is one of the quickest ways of having das, 100%, when you actually experience the situation. But das also comes from, you could create a sense of das by the more you connect to something. So for example, another example of Chachma bin Das, it's given in the book of Tanya, it's called Sparks of Tanya, and he discusses Chachma bin Das, the first volume, and he says, imagine there's a doctor, right? And this doctor sees a lot of patients. A lot of his patients, and this is way back when, let's say, 60s, for example, and a lot of his patients come in and they have a bit of a cough. And he notices that they have a cough. He tries and fixes their cough. He doesn't really realize what's the source of the cough, but it seems like a lot of his patients have a cough. So he's outside, outside his office, smoking a cigarette with one of his patients, and he realizes, one second, I seem to notice that a lot of my, patients that smoke cigarettes, they themselves, it seems to be a correlation between the cough and the cigarette smoke. And so he starts to do a study on it. So in the beginning, that initial thought, hey, there might be a correlation between them. That's chachma. That's like a burst of inspiration. That's like a, there's a possibility here. There's like, you turn on the light in a dark room. Oh, there's a possibility that this might be it, right? Then you take a moment and he actually does a study. He takes all of his patients that smoke cigarettes, and he notices that there's this incredible cough that they're all getting, and it keeps increasing, and he starts to see a correlation between the two things. Then he sees and he proves that there is actual relationship between smoking cigarettes and this really bad cough, and he knows that, and he understands it. He's done the full study, he's done the full research, he even published a book in a peer-reviewed journal, medical journal about it, right? Now, das is whether he feels connected enough to this situation that he himself will stop smoking. Will that knowledge make such an impact on him? Not just because he experienced, maybe he hasn't gotten the cough yet, maybe, or not yet. Maybe he's just one of these people that just doesn't cough because of it. But will he understand the knowledge enough that it will give him a self-made das? And will that actually make a change in his actions, in his attitudes, in his behavior? Does that make sense? So that's the das that we're talking about. So you experiencing it, if he himself started getting a cough, I think that would make it much quicker at causing him to change his actions. But not necessarily will that, it's also a sense of knowledge. You could also have that sense of knowledge that you read a book, for example. Sorry, let me check the time. Okay, we're running out of time. But when you read a book, for example, you really, it could be that it affects you so much. Like right now, I'm in the middle of reading this book called Sabota. It just came out. I mean, it came out forever ago, but they just got reprinted. And it's affecting me, and I had to put it down. It's just too intense. It's too much. It's very intense. I told my husband I would love to finish it, but I'm not capable of it because I'm having this sense of das that I actually feel what's going on with this character, and it's a very intense book. So if you're up for intensity, Sabota is a great book. So again, there was a question about Sparks of Tanya. It is, I forgot it, Robert Kamenetsky, I think his name is, and you can buy it anywhere. It's called Sparks of Tanya. Yes, that is equivalent to experiencing it and seeing others experience it. Exactly. So if you have enough knowledge, if you're able to learn enough, you're able to really contemplate, and that's one of the reasons. By the way, I know we're running out of time, but like this is genius, and I'm glad that we're having a discussion on das because this is what we're trying to accomplish by learning Chassidus. Through learning Chassidus, you're trying to recreate yes, at first, when you learn the maamer the first time, I'm literally, I feel like when I'm going through this maamer the first time, I'm walking in a dark room with a flashlight, and I'm just, oh, okay, this is what he's about to say. Oh, this is what he just said, and this is what was just said, and no, Kamenetsky, I think. You can, it's called Sparks of Tani, you'll find it. But anyway, I'm walking with a flashlight, and I'm just literally lighting up one tiny bit at a time. The second time learning a maamer, or even the second time when I learned it with my husband, and like even coming and teaching it to you guys, that gives me like a whole other level of, wow, now I truly understand. Right? Really, the second time I learn it is, wow, now I truly understand how this whole thing pieces together. How the Rebbe, Friedrich Rebbe, in this example, takes us through a journey. This leads to this, which leads to this. And once we understand this, then we can understand that. And so, yes, thank you. So now we can understand the journey through which it goes, right? But actually sitting down and having a discussion and teaching it to you guys, for example, and having a farringen with somebody who also learned the maamer, or even just for yourselves to take a moment and say, okay, what does that actually mean for me? That can create the das. And therefore, we're able to learn through learning Chassidus, we're able to have a real, true, infelt, like when you feel it inside of you, you could really grow a sensitivity for Hashem. You could really grow a sensitivity for Kedusha and godliness and all these things, which I know our class is about to finish, but tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll begin on page 57 again. And through having this knowledge, we'll be able to understand what it means that it says that the difference between the das of a human versus the das of an animal, and how we're able to grow our das and connect to godliness in a better way. Okay. Hope everybody has a wonderful day. And let me turn off the recording.